Can you ever get too much of gnomes? I mean, really, they're bloody cute. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and welcome to my weekly vlog for Monday, November the 2nd, 2020. Vlog number 191 and 236th day of COVID. So, let's get right into things. You saw in my teaser at the beginning my little gnomes. Well, those little gnomes went on to this project. This is a table topper that I made from Christmas scraps. One day I just felt like sewing fabric together, not really thinking about what I was doing. And this is what I ended up with. A little Christmas table topper. See if you can get it all up in here. Those are just scraps. Now when you first look at this, you might think, hey, wait, there was a plan, because it looks like there's some symmetry. Actually, that was purely by accident. But you can see my little gnomes in the center, all poking out their little heads if you look at it closely, and you can see my quilting as well. But then I went online and I found several designs for making these little embroidered gnomes, and I thought I'd make them as patches, and then I appliqued them onto the quilt. Well, that's what I thought I was going to do, but originally these little designs, and I'm going to put this down, these little designs were called applique, but what I didn't realize was they wanted you to put little pieces of fabric on their hands, their arms, every little bit of them. And that would have taken forever to make 8 of them. Excuse me. So I went into my artistic digitizer, that's my embroidery software that I just finished taking a course on, and played around with it and was able to come up with the design that you see right now, or just saw right now. And that worked out pretty good. Now, I didn't actually sew them to the table topper. I used something called Seam Esteem, which is basically a sticky iron-on type of glue, and they'll hold. This, if it ever sees a washing machine, they'll still be fine. It'll stand up in a wash. And then I just did simple serpentine walking foot quilting across the whole thing. I just wanted something quick and easy to get it done. Now, is this going to be a gift? No, I don't think so, because I made it from scraps. It's just going to sit on one of my tables during the holiday season, which brings me to mind, now that we're into November, I've got to start thinking about decorating. I usually, traditionally, do not put up my Christmas tree and put up my decorations until the first Saturday in December. And I'm still going to do that, or close to that date, but it means I have to go into my crawl space, or as I like to call it, the black hole of Calcutta, and dig out my Christmas decorations. And you know, you'd think you'd remember what you have, but you know, from one year to the next I never do. And I know that last year I had a lot of embroidered things. I'm going to add to that collection this year. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them out early, maybe next week or something, do sort of a quickie inventory of what I've got, and do some preliminary planning as to where these decorations are going to go. I have said before that over the years I've cut down on my Christmas decorating. I used to decorate every year, every room in the house every year. Don't do that now. But in the last few years I've limited it all to just my rec room, one room. But I think I am going to spread out a little bit this year due to the fact that I have a whole lot of things that I've made. So I have to spread the wealth, I guess. So in order to do that, I need to get them all out and figure out what I have and where it's going to go. And I think I'm going to do a special Idiot Quilter about that. Just do a little pre-Christmas sort of decoration display. Talk about the different things that I've made. That won't come up for another week or two before I get around to that. But anyways, so that's done. Am I done with my Christmas projects? Wish I could say yes, but I cannot say yes. I have 2 more that are about to be finished. Now, one I think I can get finished later today, and that is my Dresden Christmas table runner. It has taken a lot of time. It was an in the hoop applique embroidering project, and I've got all the panels now done. Now I just have to assemble it, and that shouldn't take me too long to do. At least that's my theory. And the other thing, which is going to take some more time, is my wall hanging. I started this Christmas wall hanging way back in July, probably, tail end of July. And I still have a lot of it to do. It's made up of tiles, fabric tiles, and each tile takes close to 2 hours to stitch out. It's kind of boring too. I got to do something else. Maybe I'll do some Christmas hexies or something. Hey, there's an idea. So I want to get that done before, well, within the next 2 weeks. So I can start hanging it up, because you put that kind of work and effort into it, not to mention cost. You want it to be on display as long as possible. Who knows? It may stay up all year round. I have not taken down my Halloween wall hanging, the one that had all the tiles in it, yet. In fact, I'm not going to take it down until I've got something that I want to replace that with up there on display. And that will probably be the Christmas one. But as I said, okay, who's to say you can't have Halloween all year round? It's wall art. It's wall art. The subject just happens to be Halloween. So we'll see. I wish I had more wall space around here so I could display more things, but alas, I do not. Okay, so that's what I've been working on. So that takes us to YouTube channel of the week. This is actually a television show that is shown in Australia. You may be able to see it in other places in the world too. I do know there's sort of a, what do you call it? Not a chain, a syndicate or something like that, called Border Control. And they basically look at the crazy things people try to get away with when they come into a country. Now this one's about Australia, and you know that I have a love for Australia. Been there 3 times. Love it. Just love it. Next to my own country, I love Australia the best. So we have been watching this on YouTube. They do have one that's, I think, for the Canadian border, maybe one for the American border or whatever. I'm not sure. But anyways, check out my review of this YouTube channel. This week's YouTube channel is actually a television show that comes from Australia, and it's part of a franchise, and it deals with border security in Australia. Now, I said it was part of a franchise because there are border security programs about Canada's border and possibly even the United States as well. And these shows are really about the things that border security have to go through in order to keep the country safe from people coming inside. And it's unbelievable some of the things that people try to get away with at border security. It does make you think twice before you travel to another country. So if you want to watch a really interesting series, check out Border Security Australia's Front Line. So, you know the drill. The notes for the YouTube channel, or the link, is in the show notes below. There's also a link for Stephen and Walter Live. Now, Stephen and Walter Live this week was a little different. It was a Zoom, as opposed to our usual YouTube Live. And I had put up the link for that in advance last week. We didn't have that many people on there. I think there was only 7 or 8 of us, but it's not quantity, it's quality. We had a good time. It's really nice to see people's faces. And it was nice to see these particular people's faces as well, because they tend to be regulars on Stephen and Walter Live. And so it's like meeting with friends. It really was. I don't know why we had only that number of people. Maybe a lot of people are camera shy. Maybe it was the time. We did have, the weekend was a little screwed up for times, because we here in Ontario, we set our clocks back an hour on Saturday night, as we always do. So we're into standard time again. And that may have thrown some people off as well, depending on where they were in the world. And just generally, maybe people are just a little shy or don't want their image captured, for the world to see. I don't know. But anyways, it was good. It was fun. It was general chit chat. We learned a few things too. As often happens on Stephen and Walter Live, we digressed from the topic at hand, and that's okay. And we ended up starting to talk about the differences and similarities, more differences and similarities between Canadian politics, Canadian government, how we vote, and how Americans vote. And of course, the Americans have that electoral college, which is a very big mystery to most of us who do not live in the United States. And I've gathered that it's a bit of a mystery for those that do live in the United States as well. So anyways, that was a really interesting discussion. Walter and I learned a lot about American politics and how, you know, they go about voting for and putting in power their president and other people. The Americans vote for everybody. We do not in Canada. So if you're kind of interested in, you know, listening to something, you know, about that, we also ended up comparing some other things. 2 words, spray cheese. You'll have to check it out to see what I mean by that. But the link to it is in the show notes below. There's also a link for the book of the week. And I will have a link, or there will be a link in there for Craft and Chat Zoom meeting. So if you didn't catch us live on Sunday, here's another chance for you to go on to Zoom. You know that once a month I conduct a live Zoom, a craft and chat, where crafters, no matter what kind of craft you do, we get together, we share what we're working on, and we just talk about crafting in general. It is a free area. We do not talk about politics. We do not talk about COVID, nothing like that. We just share our creative ideas and projects. So if you're interested in joining us, and I hope you will be if you can, it's at 1 o'clock this coming Wednesday, which is November the 4th. So 1 p.m. my time, Eastern time. And the link is in the show notes below. You just click on the link and away you go. So I hope we'll see a few more there. I know I'm going to see my regulars, but why not become a regular as well with us? Because we don't bite, and it is amazing the things that people create. And don't be intimidated by that either. It doesn't matter what level you think you're at. It's all art. As I've said before, crafting is art, and art, well, basically, there aren't any rules to art, and there aren't any art police. So we're very supportive. So join us if you can this coming Wednesday. Links in the show notes below. Okay, so that takes me to what's pissing me off this week. Now, I struggled with this to talk about it, but I feel that I must talk about it, as I feel I must talk about a lot of things. But I feel I must talk about this because lately this has been getting my goat. It's been getting my goat because it's been making me feel guilty. We've gone through 7.5 months, almost 8 months now, of this whole crisis thing. And, you know, anytime there's a crisis, you have what seems to be 2 types of people. At least that's what people want to make us think. There are those who slump into depression or into negative activities, you know, try to take advantage of other people during a time when they're most vulnerable. And then we have the people who rise to the surface and become our heroes and who do what they can to help out their fellow human beings. Okay, that's wonderful. But you know, there's a middle ground, and I fall in that middle ground. And that middle ground is hard to tread in because you're being pulled from both sides. And that is, we see so many things in the media about the good deeds people are doing for other people, the selfless acts, the heroic acts, the things where people are going above and beyond to help their fellow kind. And you feel guilty. And you are purposely made to feel guilty in some cases because you aren't doing what these other people are doing to, you know, get everybody through this horrible time. And I'm one of those people that feels guilty. When we first went into this crisis, everybody was on the bandwagon. We're all making masks for everybody. On the weekend, I was on a virtual retreat, and I heard about people who had made thousands of face masks out there, spent hours and hours making face masks that they gave away to friends, relatives, other people, complete strangers, for free to help them out. Well, really good. Bully for them. That was really nice of them. I didn't do that. I made a few masks for Walter and I. Walter made a few masks simply because he can, and he can make them better than I can. Well, maybe not. Or maybe yes. I don't know. We gave some to family. We gave some to the neighbors. But we didn't make hundreds of thousands of them. at all. We didn't go with a big basket of masks and go door to door distributing them around to everybody. I thought about doing that. I actually did. I actually thought about doing that. Why didn't I do it? Well, after you've made about 5 of those bloody masks, well, all I can say is those people who actually make hundreds and thousands of them really don't have a life and must really like doing it, because I did not enjoy making them. Found it somewhat boring and tedious. But anyway, so, you know, I made a few, I gave a few away, that was it. Well, apparently, according to the standards of making masks during this time, I have sadly failed. I have not done my part, and I feel guilty about it. Okay? So that's one thing. Another thing is food banks. Okay? Everybody's giving donations to food banks, and they're going in and risking their own lives to help at the food bank, distribute it, get it organized, all that kind of thing. Now, these things the food banks were there, have always been there, you know, in the good times and the bad times. And great, I'm glad they are. They are, unfortunately, they are something in our society, in Canadian society too, not just third world countries out there, that where we have people that, you know, don't know where their next meal is going to come from, or they need to supplement their food budget because, you know, rents, payments, things like that are just so high they just can't make ends meet. Okay, I get that. And it is a good thing that we in our country do have these. Wish we didn't have to have them, but we have them. But you know, I have never volunteered at a soup kitchen. I have never volunteered at a food bank. Have I donated things to both of those? Yes, but not a lot. I'll admit it. I mean, one of the things you get really cold about is every time you go into a grocery store, especially now this time of the year, we just passed Thanksgiving here in Canada. Americans are about to have that in a few weeks' time. And then, of course, the Christmas season. And that's when every supermarket you go into, they're asking you to donate to a local food bank. Okay, I get it. It's a great place to do it. You're buying your stuff. You can pick up a couple of extra things. Or what a lot of them are doing now because of COVID, they just want you to go online and donate money and do it through your credit card or something like that. Okay, yeah, I know they need it, but they're making me feel guilty. They really are. I'm not doing that. Why am I not doing that? And that's what the guilt makes you question. You feel like you're a bad person because you haven't done these things. But I haven't done it because, and that's a hard question. I don't know how to answer that. Maybe I'm not a very giving person. I do have skepticism. I'm always a little unsure as to whether these things are really getting to the people they need to get to. In the case of the food bank, I have read things where the people who have to make a payment on their Mercedes-Benz will make that payment but come into the food bank. I don't know how true those stories are. They could be urban legends. I'm sure a few of them are somewhat true, but maybe isolated cases. So in my mind, I kind of hesitate. But am I doing something else to make up for that? Not really. So I feel guilty. I feel bad. But I guess I don't feel bad enough because I don't do anything about it. What does that say about me? Well, according to the television commercials and the charitable organizations out there, I'm a horrible human being. Okay. But this is what I'm saying. All of these things that we hear about, you know, the news have segments now, good news. Well, you know, on news television programs, it's all about the bad, right? So they throw in a sunshine story kind of a thing that makes you all warm and fuzzy, and then it makes you feel even worse because you're thinking this 12-year-old kid went out there and started a lemonade stand and made $300,000 for the impoverished people in her neighborhood. I'm not squeezing lemons. Yeah. So what I'm saying is we hear about all of these great things, but I think and this is where I'm going to get into trouble, I think it's a very small number of wonderful people. I'm not going to say anything against them for doing this, but it's not the great mass numbers of people rising to the top to help out everybody else. I think it's only a handful. I think if we're really honest with ourselves, our charity starts with ourselves and our immediate families. We're looking after number one. Well, you know something? There's self-help books out there that tell you that if you aren't happy with yourself, you can't make anybody else happy. Work on your own flaws first before you go out there and work on the flaws in the world. And there's much to be said about that as well. I sometimes wonder, and this is the skeptical part of me, if some of these people are doing this because they're looking for something a little bit more. Maybe they're looking for recognition. Maybe they're looking for people to say you're a really wonderful person. Their ego is involved in this. Now, that's a cynical thing to say. I am sure there are many of those people out there that are just doing it because they feel they should and they have the means to do it. So great for them. But I'm also certain there are ones out there who are looking for their 15 minutes of fame by doing these kind of acts. I suppose you could look at it and say, well, it doesn't matter what the reasons are as long as someone benefits from it that needs to benefit from it. That's another way to look at it, I suppose. But I really hate being told in between the lines, not directly to my face, that because I am not doing what these people are doing, I'm a horrible individual. I look after myself. I look after the people most immediate to me, my family. Okay? My mother, my husband, the neighbors if they need something. That's my immediate circle, or should I use the word bubble? Those are the people that are most immediate to me. If they need something, I'm there for them. I can't physically be there for everyone in the world. I don't feel a great need to do great acts of kindness that need to be reported on the news, have my image in the tabloids or up there saying what a wonderful person I am. I don't need that. If I can help somebody out, and I have, then I will. But I'm not looking for a pat on the back because I did that. For me, it's not planning what you can do. It's doing what you can right then and there. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Back about, it was before COVID, so I guess last year. I went into a Subway, the submarine sandwich place. There was a lady ahead of me. She seemed to be in a bit of a hurry. She seemed to be a little flustered, whatnot. She had a coupon from Subway where you could get 2 6-inch subs for the price of 1. She ordered the 2 subs. She was also on the phone. I gathered from her phone conversation that she was picking this up for someone who was a shut-in that she sort of works with. I'm not sure if she did this on a private basis or whether she worked for a volunteer agency or what the nature of it was, but I gathered the other person was not mobile, just from the little snippets of conversation I overheard, and this was sort of a treat, I guess, for that person. But I also gathered that maybe, now I don't know for sure, but I don't know what said it to me, but I thought that this lady, for herself, did not really have a lot of money, but this was something she was doing. So when she got her 2 subs, she went to pay for them, she handed them the coupon, and they said, oh, you have to buy a drink with both of those to get the special. And she looked at her and says, I don't want the drink. I said, well, you have to do that, or we have to charge you the full price for the 2. She says, I only have this exact amount of money to cover this. And she held it out in her hand, and there it was. Well, the woman behind the desk, okay, yeah, her hands were kind of tied. This is company policy and the whole bit. But come on. just give it to her. Who would know? And really, where fast food places make their most money is on soft drinks. They pay pennies for that and charge us dollars. So really, for just this one, this lady wasn't trying to pull the wool. I didn't think so, in my opinion. Maybe I was wrong, but she wasn't trying to pull the wool over. She had not read the coupon, you know, the fine print that says there's always a catch in these. She had the exact amount of money. The subs were already made. Here you go. And I don't know what it was, but something clicked inside of me. And I said, don't worry about that. I said to the girl behind the counter, just put it on my bill. I'll pay for it. Something clicked at that moment. It said, do this. I wasn't looking for a pat in the back. In fact, I was embarrassed by it because this lady thanked me profusely and said, here, she gave me the coupon. And I says, I have a set of those coupons already. Save it for another time for yourself. I mean, yeah. So it cost me more than I was intending to spend at Subway. But you want to know something? I could afford it. It wasn't going to kill me or damage me. And it got this lady out of a very difficult position. And she was doing something, in my mind, she was doing something very nice for somebody else. So I was just helping her out for helping somebody else out. Now, I might have been a complete sucker. I don't know. But that's what I mean. Acts of charity, for me, happen in the moment. There's been times I've been walking down in the streets of Toronto, way back, and there's always somebody on a street corner sitting there with a coffee cup in front of them looking for you to drop in change. Usually I walk right by them because there's a lot of panhandlers out there that it's a racket. But there have been times when for some reason I get this sudden jab of a thought. I don't know what it is that just says to me, give them something. So I have. So that's what I mean. My acts of kindness are impulsive. Maybe that's not the way to handle these things. According to what I see on TV, I'm supposed to be a lot more organized and have a much better plan than this, but I don't. So I'm not an unkind person. I do feel guilty when I see these things on TV, but for some reason for me, if I'm going to do an act of kindness, it's without fanfare, it's nobody needs to know, and it's when this feeling hits me. I don't know what that is, why that happens. So anyways, kind of digressed a little bit. But my whole point is this. If you are feeling guilty because you're being told, or at least you think you're being told, you're not doing enough in this time of crisis, stop and think about yourself. I mean, one way to help out society, I think, is to help ourselves cope with what's going on. Because if we don't help ourselves cope with it, we are useless. We become a burden onto society rather than a help to society. So I say, don't feel guilty. I think a lot of people felt guilty over this past Halloween weekend because they didn't give out candy to kids. And I heard that yesterday on Stephen and Walter Live. We got talking about Halloween, and a couple of people said it felt very strange not to give out anything this year. And some people did, and some people, and not just people on Stephen and Walter Live, but other people I have heard, they did it out of a sense of feeling guilty. All those poor little kids aren't going to get candy this year. Really? They can get candy in other ways. 1 year is not going to kill them. And I have a feeling parents overcompensated for Halloween this year with their children. I think kids did pretty good, really, this year. I didn't give out candy, and I don't feel guilty about it at all. At all. I'm saving them from getting tooth decay. Okay? I'm saving them from having high blood pressure. Well, I don't really look at it that way, but you know what I mean. So, everybody's talking about, doing all these things extra, and then if you don't, you feel guilty. So that just brings up the whole question about Christmas. Christmas. This will be interesting. Okay, so that was what pisses me off this week. Feeling guilty. Okay, so let's talk about things I may have got this week. So, in this little box that came from Amazon, I have some strange little things. And I will show you these strange little things. There are 4, but one of them is out of the box, so there you go. Now you're going to say, what are these? Well, these are plugs, but they're smart plugs. And they supposed to work with a piece of software, an app for your phone, and you can plug things into them, and you can, whatever's plugged into them, you can set it up so that you can turn them on or turn them off from your phone. Supposedly you can arrange it. I haven't been able to get this work yet with work with your smart device like Alexa or the Google one, Google Home. And you can put timers into them to turn things on and turn things off at certain times of the day, all that kind of stuff. Well, I bought these with Christmas in mind. I always put my Christmas tree on a timer, and it doesn't matter whether I buy an expensive timer or a cheap dollar store timer, I have nothing but trouble with the damn timers. They never seem to work the way they're supposed to. So when the tree's supposed to go on, it's not. When the tree's supposed to go off, it's on. So I fight with that every year. Now, mind you, if I dropped $100 on a timer, digital and the whole bit, yeah, I probably wouldn't have that problem. But no, I'm not going to drop $100 on a timer. I think it's bad enough that I dropped $4 on a timer at the dollar store. The Dollar Plus store. Nothing's $1 there anymore. So I saw these on Amazon, and they weren't that expensive. I think I paid $35 Canadian for the 4 of them. So I've been experimenting. That's why one's missing. I've been experimenting with one. Well, so far I've been able to get it to hook up. They hook up through Wi-Fi in your house. That took a little bit of doing, but I got it to work. And now I can go into my sewing room and turn on a light with my cell phone. Yay. I can also turn on a light by hitting the switch. But it's just there just for the sake of experimenting with this. Because as I said, I'm going to put these on my Christmas decorations and on my Christmas tree, and hopefully I can get it so everything will work automatic, and away we go. So that's why I bought them. Now, having said about Christmas tree, when I made the Halloween decorations and I talked about the battery operated LEDs in them, and they took those little flat disc batteries, and I had to replace them every day practically. The little suckers just drain the juice, and Walter tells me that those type of flat round batteries do not have a lot of power in them. So I went looking for something else. Now, of course, you can buy battery operated fairy lights at the dollar store. And yeah, they are what they are. But I went on Amazon and I got these. These were about $20. You got 2 coils. So I have 2 of these. This is one. I haven't unrolled it yet. And it has a battery pack, and it takes 3 AA batteries. So my theory is the batteries on these are going to last much longer. But they also come with a remote control. And see if this will work. There we go. They are on. And there are different settings. A little twinkly thing there. I think there's about 7 different settings. Yeah. But there's also, I'll turn those off, a timer. Now, when I read that it was a timer, I turned on the other ones in the box. Okay, off. Because it has 2 remote controls, one for each string, but it seems that one remote control works for everything. But when I read about them on Amazon and they said they had a timer, I was thinking more or less of the kind of timer that, counts down or turns them on a certain time of day and turns them off at a certain time of day. No. These ones work, and I've used this kind of timer before, where if you hold in the timer button when you first turn on the lights, they will stay on for 6 hours, turn themselves off after 6 hours, and turn themselves back on in 18 hours. So essentially what you're saying is, if I want my Christmas tree lights or my decoration lights, these aren't going to go on the Christmas tree, to turn on at say 6 o'clock at night, I turn them on the very first time I use them, hold down the timer button, that's programmed in. They will turn off at midnight, and 18 hours later, which will be 6 o'clock p.m. the next day, they will turn on again. And that's the way it's supposed to work. Okay, that's fine by me. We'll see if that works. Because I used to have another Christmas decoration years ago that had a similar system to this. And yeah, it worked for the first little while, and then it just stopped working. It wouldn't turn off or whatever. So, but for what I paid for them and what they are, we'll see. We'll see how that works out. There are more elaborate systems you can buy, but you know, I don't want to spend a couple of $100 on systems because for something that is only coming out once a year for a few weeks. So it's the cheap part of me, I guess. I can think of better things to spend my money on than that. So anyways, those were new toys that I bought this past week, and we'll see how those all work out. So I did get something else. This has to do with quilting and sewing. Let me grab my little box here that I've got them in. So I think most people, well, if you're a quilter, you know about this. There is an organization called Quilts of Valor, and they make people volunteer to make quilts that are given to service people. I have made squares of these things that you can send to a certain site, and they will get somebody to put them all squares in together for a quilt as well. Or you can make a whole quilt and send it to them. But there is a gentleman who I just met virtually this past weekend, but I'd known about him before. I belong to a group online, a Facebook group called Canadian Men's Quilters. Canadian Men Quilters. So it's a bunch of guys that quilt. And he designed a pattern for Quilts of Valor, and this is his pattern. And I really like the pattern. So I bought it. And I ordered it. Now, they didn't have it as a PDF, which was a little bit of a disappointment, so I had to wait for it to come through the mail. So that took a week and a half, which is fast for Canadian mail. And I got my fabric for it. Now, he recommended certain colors, as you can see. Sort of, he calls this a cream in the background, and then, of course, this type of red. And it comes from a collection by Northcott called O Canada. I went to my local quilt store because they carry this line of fabric, but they didn't have these ones in stock. But I bought stuff that I think will work just as well. So in place of the cream, I bought this, which has all kinds of words on it that say things about our country. Glowing hearts, that comes from our True North, Strong and Free. Those both come from our national anthem. Diversity, peaceful, beautiful, inclusive, far and wide. Like, between the words of our national anthem and things that are often associated with Canadians, which are very positive things, they're all on here. So that'll look good in the background. And then the leaf parts, I bought this red, which is sort of mottled, and I think that'll look very good. I haven't read the instructions for putting this together, but just looking at it, I think it's a lot of half square triangles, and that's really easy because I'm an expert in making half square triangles because I've made a lot of them. So I'm looking forward to creating this. The quilt size is 60 by 80. And yeah, if I get it done, it's half decent, then maybe I'll send it off to Quilts of Valor so a service person can get it. Of course, I might like it so much I don't want to give it away, so I may have to make two. We'll see. So that's what I bought this week. And this is a project that's not going to get started till after Christmas. Well, maybe sooner, but Christmas comes first. Got to finish those projects. Okay, so that's all I bought this week. What's next? Okay, book review. Found another one in my stash. I am truly coming to the end of my book stash, I think. But I found this one. 101 more mixed media techniques. Now, a long time ago, in my stash, I had the first book in this, which is 101 Mixed Media Techniques. So this is the sequel. And you see I've marked a lot of pages, and I don't think I necessarily did all those things that are in there. But it all lays it out, borders and edges. Just grab another page at random here. What's this? Resists and masking. So it's techniques. It's all techniques that you can use in your art journals, or to make background papers, or to do cards, or to do scrapbook pages, that kind of thing, whatever you want. You can see that it's beautifully photographed. Everything is pretty much, the instructions for each technique are pretty much limited to one page, so it's short and it's quick. It's even spiral bound, so it'll lay flat on your craft table when you're working with it. Don't you hate those books that have the glued binding and they don't stay open, and so you got like clamps on it all to keep it from closing up on you? So a nice little book. It's even a nice size as well. I think very useful. So cost-wise, what's this going to set you back? Well, it says on the back that it was $25.95 Canadian, $21.95 US at the time that I bought it. And I don't know if I bought it online or where I bought it. But I did look it up on Amazon, and guess what? On Amazon, it's $24.15 Canadian, but there will be shipping, and it didn't say, I didn't go that much further into it to find out how much the shipping would cost. So originally, without shipping, this book cost $25.95, so it's about $1 cheaper than it was originally, but there is shipping. But I think it's a very useful book, and I think it's really good for people who are just getting into art journaling or mixed media. I think this would be an excellent reference book for you as well. And the price for something like that isn't bad, okay, because this isn't a one-off. I'm sure you would go back to this book and refer to it many times. Okay. So the link for that is in the show notes. All right, so that takes us to works in process. Well, this is the last of my series on making the curio cabinet. So you will now see the completely finished product on this, which now means I have to work on another project. Got to think about that. So here's the finished product. I have glued it to a tripod, and that holds it up for display purposes. And you can see on the top I added these little brown bottles and some flowers just to give it that look of, clutter, actually, because a curio cabinet would be very cluttered. And now we can just open this up, and hopefully I will not fall over. And I mean this fall over, not me fall over. And there we have it. So you can see each of the little compartments have something that's curious to look at, all very different. And we have the booklet or album inside, which I showed you earlier how to take that out. So I'm not going to take that out right now. I think this is kind of a unique presentation of an album. It's a little bit whimsical. It's a little bit fun. And it was fun to create. So I hope you enjoyed this series on creating a curio cabinet album box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the parts of that series, put them all together as one video, and I'll put them in my playlist for mixed media projects. And that way, if you want to go back and refer to it, you don't have to listen to me. It'll all be in one spot, all the parts together. And I'll have the link for that in my show notes next week. Okay, so what's coming up? Or no, events in the past week. Update on my mother, she's fine. Yeah, this week was not eventful. She even had her best friends gave her a call, and she liked that. That was good. So nothing there to talk about. Halloween, already kind of talked about Halloween. We didn't give anything out. Yes, it felt a little weird, but then again, as I've already said, their parents will make up for that. It's one time, I hope. Finished the artistic digitizer class that we were doing online with Gnome, and I have to say, for $10, you got 3 2-hour classes. It was very, very good. I did get a little lost in the last class, but it's nothing major. I'm sure I can figure it out. But it was well worth it. It really was. And that was a surprise because I really thought it was going to be less teaching, more selling of products, but it wasn't. So I was very pleased with that. Now Walter's going to take another class with them. I think it starts maybe this coming Saturday. It's on using his cover stitch machine. I have no interest in the cover stitch machine because I don't do garment sewing, but he does. So hopefully that will be as good as this one and he will get a lot out of that. Okay, talked about our little Zoom experiment. How often will we do Stephen and Walter Live as a Zoom? Not real often. Maybe once every couple of months or something like that. Because to be quite honest, I was zoomed out this weekend and that's what I'm coming to next. I did 3 Zooms on Sunday. It started with a virtual quilting retreat, a man's retreat. I mentioned when I was talking about the Quilts of Valor pattern that this is a group I belong to on Facebook called the Canadian Men Quilters. Yeah. And so basically the organizer, it was actually the gentleman who made that pattern that I showed you. He set this up starting at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning and running till, well, I don't know what time it ended up at because I couldn't stay for the whole thing, which was a bit of a disappointment because I was really enjoying it. But that was one thing. I'm going to come back to it in a second, but just to carry on with the thought of why I had so many Zoom meetings. So I had that. Then I had to stop that at 1 o'clock because this was the first Sunday of the month. So on the first Sunday of the month, my art journaling group gets together virtually on Zoom. I host that, and we catch up on what we've been working on and things like that. And this is a group, as you know, because I've talked about them many times before, that we've been together for over 3 years now. We used to be able to physically meet and work on our projects. Now we're doing things virtually like everybody else. So I had that. So after that was over, I went back to the man's virtual retreat for a little while. And then I had to stop because we had Stephen and Walter Live on Zoom at 4 o'clock. So I kind of triple booked myself on Zoom on Sunday. And really, it gets exhausting. There can be too much of a good thing, okay? So anyways, that's why I don't think that we'll be doing another Stephen and Walter Live, Zoom Live for a little bit of time. Maybe we'll do something closer to Christmas, you know, sort of a Christmas special. We'll see. Maybe I can plan something where we'll actually do something that's interactive, like play some kind of game or something like that. I'll see. I have to think about these things and, you know, plan them for that. But back to the virtual retreat. Okay, I've been on quilting retreats before that are virtual. But what was different about this one? Well, this was guys. The ones I've been on before are primarily only 1 or 2 men. Mostly 1 man sometimes. And I don't want to sound sexist because it doesn't matter how I say this, it's going to sound sexist. But I enjoyed the men's retreat a little bit more than I enjoy doing a quilting retreat with a lot of ladies. Now, don't get me wrong. Those ones I've been on, the ladies are lovely and the whole bit, but there's a different tone. Totally different tone. Now, I mentioned this yesterday in Stephen and Walter Live, and somebody put me to task and says, well, what do you mean? And I really couldn't give them a very coherent answer for this without sounding sexist. So I will give you a coherent answer to it. And please, I'm telling you this from my point of view. I don't mean it to sound negative towards women. Okay? Less chatter. The men didn't sit there and go on about their children, their grandchildren, what the lady next door was doing. Did you read this about whatever? They didn't. They worked. Now, did we talk? Yes, we did. What did we talk about? We talked about products. A couple of the people on there run businesses as well. So we talked about what was new in their store and things like that. We talked about the aspects of the business as opposed to just, you know, do you have this pretty fabric in stock? We also talked about our machines. Men love machines, okay? But we didn't just natter away. We didn't spend a lot of time showing each other what we were working on and asking for advice. Occasionally somebody did. They say, okay, I got this done. I'm thinking about putting a border on it. Suggestions? Okay. But it was just the whole atmosphere. It was nice to be with men who quilt. And that is somewhat untraditional. I am sure out there in the male world, men who do not do any kind of crafting or whatever, we must seem very weird. They've probably never heard of men quilting or something like that. Surprise, there's a lot of us. But I just felt so much more at home and comfortable with my own kind. So also, I wasn't worried about saying the wrong thing. When I'm in a situation where it's principally females, I have to watch what I say, because I will get the evil eye if it's something someone doesn't agree with, or somebody who thinks I'm not being politically correct, or whatever gets their goat. And that just changes the whole atmosphere for me when that happens. So I sit there and I keep my mouth shut. I didn't have to do that with men. Now, it's not like we were suddenly out there just calling everybody a derogatory name or doing anything like that, or purposely trying to be politically incorrect and all that stuff. No, but I just felt more comfortable knowing that if something came out of my mouth, I wasn't necessarily going to be taken off at the neck of that. And that, unfortunately, is the feeling I get from being a male in an all-female environment. I think I've mentioned that's the feeling I get from the guild I'm in. And apparently I'm not alone in how men feel about belonging to quilting guilds. That was a question up. One person asked, any of you guys belong to a guild? And several of us do. And I mentioned mine. I said, yeah, I'm the only man in my guild with about 100 ladies. And they said, and how do you like it? And I said, to be honest, I don't. And they said, why is that? So I told them. I said, I'm afraid to open my mouth because I get criticized. I sometimes have had to say to the ladies, you must have mistaken me for your husband, because I'm not, and I don't do a honey-do list, and I don't take orders very well from you. Because that's what they're like. They micromanage. I sit on the executive. There are many on there who micromanage. I don't like being micromanaged. So really, I'm not enjoying it, and I intend to quit. After my time is up as the secretary of this group, I'm going to quit because I'm not getting anything out of it. So, you know, why should I be part of something that doesn't want me to be there? They're very sexist as well, but they try to pretend that they're not. When I said all of that, and I would never have said all of that if this had been, you know, all ladies at it, because no, I wouldn't have got 3 words out before I would have gotten killed. Some of the other guys sort of said the same thing. They are experiencing the same thing in their guilds. So I'm not alone in this. And that's too bad. But as men quilters, as much as up front, many of the ladies will say, oh, this is nice, isn't this? It's great to have a man in the group. They don't mean it. They really don't. We have somehow gotten ourselves, or they look at it as we've infiltrated their ranks and we're going to do evil. And, you know, maybe they don't think that, but that's how we feel about it. So I think it's good that there are opportunities for men, even if it's just virtual, to get together to do something we love to do. And that it works for us. Now, I think we should have a men's guild, and I would dearly love to start one, but I'm not sure how to do that. Right now, like a guild physically where we get together, not just virtually, but of course right now, that's impossible. We can't do that. But it's in the back of my mind, and maybe There are more men out there. I don't know how I get the word out, but I'm thinking about it. It's not going to happen tomorrow. May never happen, but there's the thoughts. So I know you're going to write comments to me and tell me that I shouldn't feel that way, that, you know, no, that's just in my imagination, the way women treat men in these things and all this kind of stuff. And you can write those things, and I'm not going to believe you because I live it. I live it. And I know what I have been living through. So, enough on that. I didn't really intend to go that way. Okay, so what's coming up? Okay, elephant in the room, U.S. election. Tomorrow, Tuesday. Yeah, I heard some things yesterday on Stephen and Walter Live from some of the American people on there, and it really upset me. I didn't know that already in the United States, this election is inciting violence. One lady said she's afraid to go out on the streets right now during this time because of the Trump supporters, what they're doing. There's caravans, apparently, or convoys of trucks, you know, flying Trump flags and stuff and all this. They surround someplace down in the southern United States. I don't know if it was Texas or something. She mentioned that, you know, a whole bunch of Trump supporters and trucks surrounded the caravans of the Biden campaign and stuff like that. And they're trying to intimidate voters and things like that. Wow. This is stuff. I don't know if I missed that on the news, but I didn't hear about this. I knew things were rocky, but I didn't know people were actually doing this and threatening violence and the whole bit over an election. That sounds so third world, South America type country-ish kind of a thing. Makes me really glad I live here in Canada. So I really, my heart goes out to the American people, the average American people out there that are going through this. And then I watched something on a TED Talk last night where they talked about the loopholes in their Constitution, whereby if a president doesn't, like the outgoing president doesn't concede that he has lost the election, he doesn't get ousted. He can delay it. He can stay in power. And they said it's not really a law, it's more of a tradition. But then he talked about all these things about the Electoral College and how this works after the election and everything. Mind-boggling. It really is. So I really feel horrible for the average American person that has to go through this. I mean, this sounds almost like there's the potential for, well, violence, but even the possibility of like a civil war-like environment. That's just boggles my mind. As I said, I'm trying to get my head around this. How can that happen? So to all of you, and I do have a lot of you that are American viewers, I hope that the worst case scenarios do not happen. I hope you have a fair election. I hope you have a very clear winner, and I hope it isn't Trump. And I hope that maybe after this election, the average American people can start to feel good again about their country and try to undo the damage that this administration you have right now has done to you. I hope for your sake. Because you can't come here because our borders are closed. Sorry. But anyways, I really hope so. So do what you need to do to get who you need to get into power. But stay away from violence. Stay out of harm's way. That's what I hope for you. We shall see. Okay, so that's it for me today. I hope you have a really good week. I hope you are healthy. And as I always say, stay well, stay happy, stay well, stay in, and let's get through this thing together. And let's hope that this year ends on a positive note and 2021 is going to be really, really great. But we still got to get through the next month and a half of this year, don't we? Okay, see you next week. Bye-bye.